round two for the month of May. We are pleased that you all could join us. Looking forward to covering some great games tonight. And first of all, a couple of announcements from the club. We have an upcoming training camp at the end of May featuring International Master Nubair. He's going to be coming to Minnesota to play in this event. There will be, a training camp on the Carlsbad Pond structure. This will be on Friday, May 30th. The training camp will be from 5 to 8 p.m. The tandem simul, there'll be a simul after from 8 to 10. Simul will feature, of course, New Bear, National Master OK. You can look at the flyer. You have the cost of the training camp. You can see everything there, but make sure to attend that. This is a great opportunity to get some great instruction from a international master. And after that, on the Saturday and Sunday, which is May 31st and June 1st, we have a tournament. It's a 7-round tournament, game 60 with a 15-second delay. So I believe there are some discounts if you sign up for both the training camp and the tournament that follows. So make sure to check that out and attend that. Next announcement, we have our player profile for the week, and it is Kyler Weatherspoon, who is a national master. He peaked at 2210. He made 2200, placing in a tie for second behind OK, who won the event in the 2020 Winter Open. So that was when he achieved that title. His best wins include Andrew Titus, Matt Dahl, Matt Jensen, Jackson Wall, Dexter Thompson, Tim McEntee, Andrew Chernov, OK, Jason Drake, Wilson Gibbons, and Anatoly Lane. And his best draws include now Grandmaster Andrew Tang, Seth Homa, Alex Lichter, and Leonard Johnson. So great player we're checking out tonight and looking forward to seeing his games.
Yeah, he's a strong player as obvious from his profile there, and he plays a sort of say controlled aggression style. I mean, he's definitely looking to attack, but isn't wild in his attacks. It always seems sort of controlled, but once it gets going, could be pretty lethal, as I've been on the wrong side of before. So let's see. Maybe we could get into his game today. So today he's playing against Ethan Hunt, another national master, and they start off with a Queen's Gambit declined, which then becomes a Tarrasch. Check that, a semi-Tarrasch. Okay, I think we had discussed the position like this. I think, well, okay, yeah, we came to conclusion was probably the growth field we're thinking of, but yeah, but this position seems simple, but can have lots of poison to it. Oh, okay.
Definitely wasn't expecting him to take that.
Yeah, I thought that it probably wasn't great, but it seems as if there's no punishing it. Maybe I thought, oh, maybe there's what's going on here?
I've never seen this position. Yeah, my instincts were if you take the pawn, you just play rook e8. So queen f6 seems a little odd, but it could be theory that I don't know about. Yeah, it looks like it is.
Yeah, that's the 95. See, okay, so let's see. First of all, d5 is interesting, pretty aggressive.
I like it from the sense that it's definitely a forcing move because you're not going to win material, but you're threatening if black does nothing, you're threatening to give him the weakness on e6. So
On
It
e6,
is,
yes.
yeah, it is a type of threat. But I wonder if you can play Queen E7 instead of E5. You
Yeah.
probably, you probably don't worry about him pushing that pawn again. It seems, well, maybe he could get D6 and E5. Maybe that is too strong. I don't know.
So if you put, so you're talking about Queen e7 in this position here.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe it's just kind of a nothing move though. You can just take on E6.
Probably. There's also like castling and maybe even maybe even d6 there, like
Yeah.
create the wedge and followed by this guy, possibly. But yeah, I don't think I've seen this specific position. And this 95 also seems bold. I thought maybe rook e8, but maybe rook e8 is not doing anything. I suppose queen d4 covers everything. And now if f6, but if f6 to kick the knight away, maybe this is working now. No.
Maybe you could go Queen F6 though instead of F6 because now you can't play F4. So yeah,
Wow.
Rook E8 and then Queen D4 and then Queen F6. And now White's in a little bit of trouble, I think.
Yeah, there's that. Although maybe
It's crazy.
hmm, it is crazy.
I think what we can take from this though is that both players are, or at least up until this point, probably still in their prep because they're playing
Yes.
quickly.
Yeah, this is it's prep I don't know about, obviously. So I suppose the idea is White really can't hold on. Maybe White just can't hold on to that pawn. And so the question is how best to give it up, give it back, and still have some sort of advantage, is what it looks like to me. Um, hmm. All right. Well, let's see. So this is the game so far. And another interesting decision.
I have the I just have this sense that this is a high level game, like two grandmasters playing. They're quickly trading off pieces. It's move 28. White has a past D pawn. Black's probably going to get a past A pawn. It seems very if I was playing guess the elo, I would maybe guess
Hmm.
like 2500.
It does seem as if it's a game. I mean, it seems almost, I don't know if I use the word clinical, but it just seems like, yeah, maybe they're playing in their prep and they've worked out the scheme all the way to the end game. And now it's just to test out whose theory of the position is more accurate. Because, yeah, the piece is just coming off, and then pass pawn is created, but black could potentially create his own pass pawn on the queen side. So I wonder if e5 is doable here before playing rook f5. But
Probably.
hmm, so it seems to me like um, Who's better in this ending?
Hmm.
Maybe there's no answer to that question. Because I think Black might be able to get away with A5 at some point. Maybe the point has to be now because if you allow Rook B6, then their pawn can go safely. But like maybe something like A5, put it here and here and here and here. And you're going to get this guy back, and White probably needs to. He doesn't need to do this, actually. I suppose he could try and be smart with this, and if here, then go there. Although, maybe that's not working, because after here, here, and here,
Now you probably have to play D7 or yeah, D7.
yeah, D7 seems like it's forced.
And now we're up a pawn actually, but should be a draw.
Yeah,
And when I say we're, I'm not taking favorites or anything. I'm just calculating.
yes, yes. Now, I suppose half the moves in that analysis are wrong, but it's just an interesting. It looks like an interesting race. Um, that A5 idea. Otherwise, Black might be in trouble already, just because of the past D pawn. But then, okay, how can he make progress?
I slightly prefer black. I feel like this has to be a draw, but the king's a little more active. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that and because the king's more active, the A pawn seems scarier than the D pawn to me. So
Yeah,
I would take black, but I would be surprised if this game was decisive.
yeah. I think this is probably heading towards a draw, but rook and pawn endings are very, very tricky. And even though Tarash half joked about all rook and pawn endings being drawn, there are very many, very many ways to lose them. I found a lot of them over the years. And so I'm not going to say this is an automatic draw here.
Yeah,
Okay,
oh,
well,
I
let's
agree.
yeah, let's leave this one here. Let's take a look at Connor versus Miles. Connor is playing the black pieces. Miles has the white pieces. Starts off with Miles' favorite system. Okay, so he has an IQP position to play against.
If we could go back a couple moves, I just want to get your opinion on something. Okay. After yeah, so takes on C5, and then he replayed knight C3. I was just wondering, I just briefly looking at it, I personally prefer knight A3. Um, just because whenever I get these IQP, my natural
Mhm.
instinct, and partly because I play too much blitz and bullet, but my natural instinct is to plant one of my knights right in front of that pawn and do so
Yes,
pretty much as quickly as possible. So knight c3, I mean, you're putting pressure on the pawn, but you're probably more, you probably want to blockade the pawn before just trying to attack it. So I kind of like knight a3, knight c2, and then probably knight c d4 when you can.
okay.
But it's
So,
obviously, it's choosing how you want to play. But just to show the viewers that you have a couple of places to place your knight.
yes. And maybe the knight on C2 to D4 is actually more consistent with the position in a way. I mean, not that I think you can do it safely. yet. But once the knight goes to c2, now black is threatened with the loss of a pawn on d5, or ruining his kingside structure. From c3, on the other hand, it's difficult to see what the knight's future is just yet. So he could play like rook c1, knight a4 to get a bit of a clamp on the c5 square. But then if black plays b6 at some point, well, actually, maybe it might not be that easy for him to do. Because that's the so another plan in these IQP positions is to try, well, obviously you want to get control over here, but getting control over this square could also be important. And in any case, playing knight a4 forces the bishop to make up its mind. Are you going to maintain this diagonal, or are you going to stay on this diagonal? And if you stay on the a3 to f8 diagonal, that means you're not putting pressure on d4, making the advance to d4 less possible. But yeah, I think knight a3 seems a bit, strangely enough, putting the knight on the rim gives it more opportunities than just flipping to a4. So
And I
yeah, so
guess it's a
he,
position where he doesn't necessarily even once you play knight c3. What I didn't even realize till now is you can just play d4 anyways right now, so he can get rid of the IQP if he wants to. But it's completely optional whether you play knight a3 or knight c3. It's just
I mean,
personal
he playing
preference.
d4 right here.
Like right here, can he just go d4 and get rid of the IQP?
I think not, just because if he plays d4, so there's
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4. He plays knight a4, attacking the hanging bishop.
oh, you're right. Yes.
And maybe there's a tactic there. So if you play here and you play knight takes, play here, and you play here. Yeah, yeah, that's just a pawn loss.
Yeah, knight a. So maybe yeah.
It's knight g4, knight g5. So he wants to get the bishop pair. And then probably if things work out, depending on how black recaptures on e6, then either continue putting pressure against the IQP, or if he captures on e6 with a pawn, maybe he might look at getting the e3, e4 break in to try and break up the pawns again. Oh, okay. That seems a bit risky. Oh, this is an important moment. So obviously, bishop takes a6. The idea is if pawn takes the bishop, then the rook takes the knight. D4. Seems very active. Okay, so the position isn't dead yet. Oh, okay, no, it's not threatening that. For a second, I thought 92 was viable, but that is not correct. So at the end of that operation, white's a pawn up, but his pieces could be better.
Yeah, black definitely has compensation. I like his rooks are on the ideal files.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, he has compensation, but I feel like Miles is doing all right. I like his
Yeah.
bishops.
So Connor must have felt the need to create aggressive.
Oh no.
Hmm.
Oh, good move.
That is a nice one. Now, does Queen H7? Oh, that's what he plays next. I was gonna say maybe he has this Desperado thing. Ouch. Okay. Hello. So
Yeah,
it's just like a lightning fast counter, right? And what exactly did Miles do wrong here to deserve?
I'm
I
guessing.
suppose.
So when he played Queen E1, he permitted the knight to now come to G4. And I'm guessing it
Yeah.
was just he probably saw that, but he was thinking, oh, Queen E1, Knight G4, Queen E4, and now I'm threatening the knight and mate. And if he wants to come back with his
Hmm.
knight and stop both, who cares? I'll just go like Queen H4 or something. But
Hmm.
he probably missed Queen H4, which not only defends everything but attacks everything.
Exactly. And actually, there's no way to save material here because okay, so after H3, he could have played knight F2 immediately, I think. But Rook F4 is even stronger. Now
Well,
it's
Knight
Queen
F2, I think
A1.
you lose the queen, right? Knight F2.
Oh yeah. So I'm probably thinking Rook F2 first. But then the knight gets lost, right? So he has to play Rook F4 here.
I think so.
Yeah. Now it's making more sense. So he has to play Rook F4 because I for some reason I lost track of the pin against the knight on the fourth rank. So that's why Rook F4 had to be played, and there's no good way to defend um, F2. I think. Well, actually, let's see. Just for the sake of argument, if this happens,
Knight
what's the best
F2
way
looks
to?
good.
So knight F2.
Or Rook F2 might be better, but this is good probably.
Okay. And the knight on D4 will probably discover somewhere and make life miserable.
Yeah, like Rook F2. You might even be able to get away with Knight E2.
Mm-hmm.
You're sacking both
Or
knights, but you don't want to win the queen.
or
Maybe it's not the cleanest.
even here might be doable with knight F3 to come. So say if here the knight F3 check
Or this,
might be
yeah.
doable. Um, so he felt he needed to do the desperado, but unfortunately, black doesn't have to capture an H7 first. He can toss in this check and then toss in this check. And if he plays rook takes F2, rook takes F2, rook takes F2, he's still left with two pieces hanging. So this is an awful position right here. All right, so yeah, his decision to resign was not too early. So that was a nice flash attack by Connor. And yes, I think Queen E1 was what set things rolling. Although it was difficult to see where to place the queen, because he was likely afraid of discoveries. That said, I'm not sure if there is a good discovery for black here.
I wonder instead of queen e1, I wonder if h3 is too passive. I just want to kind of prevent knight g4 down the road and enable my queen to leave. But
Okay.
I feel like the problem is you kind of need your queen on d1 anyways, because you don't want to allow knight h5, knight f4. So
Mhm.
maybe h3 only solves one of the threats, but not both. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe it's just a position where white has the pawn, but black is coming in too quickly with compensation.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that these guys are all sidelined here and not in a position to help the king made Connor's attack stronger. Oh. So, and it seemed like he was doing the right stuff. And yeah, maybe things maybe this bishop a6 was a problem. It's hard to believe that though. It really is. That would be the main cause of the demise of his position.
Connor definitely handled it well though. I like
Yes.
d4.
Yes. No, he had his opportunity and he took it and executed properly. So, all right. Well, let's see what's happening. What happened in Robert Donahue versus Torfey. Torfey defending the honor of the Alyakin, getting a decent position, and now, at least strategically, he seems to have a bit of an advantage based on um, getting the bishop pair because the bishop can't run due to the c4 on being under defended. And I glossed over the opening moves. I'm not exactly sure where things went wrong theoretically. I think that somewhere here there had to be. I mean, unless this is like, unless it's something I can't see, I would think, as looking at um, database of games, and it would seem like this is the safest move.
Hmm.
That said, I don't know that Robert wants to be identified with moves described as safe. So maybe that's why he wanted that. But then now White ends up losing casting rights. And
That looks like a piece.
yeah, this is wait a second. So what happens after Queen G4 though?
Oh, queen g4. I missed that. Maybe he can still do it. We'll see.
Well, so he has to go to a light square. Well, I suppose capturing that solves that problem. Oh, that's a nice dance. So he brings his queen. He retreats by attacking Robert's queen. Sorry, and everything is just holding. Huh?
I guess black has two captures after that that would lose on the spot. If he took the rook, or if he took the bishop with his queen, then the light squares would be vulnerable and you'd get checkmated.
Ah, okay.
But
Okay, got it.
I don't see why you can't play, yeah, just bishop takes d2.
Yeah, this is a shambles of a position now. Um, okay, how did that game? That game just sort of went sideways. Oh yeah. So I'm not sure. Excuse me. I'm not sure what was wrong with Queen G4 check here.
Not to be rude, but I think just the whole plan is wrong because I mean, if queen g4, don't you play f5 and then you're gonna win the pawn on d5 and then now you're up a
Yes.
pawn. So and we take c6, which we already looked at because that's what happened in the game, didn't quite work. So maybe just
Yeah.
d5 as a move is
D5 is.
not good.
I mean, just um logically opening opening the center while your king is basically stuck in the center and your rook is imprisoned on h1 doesn't seem right. Just smells wrong. Um, so yeah, I think the d5 idea is just a bit dubious.
How much time did he spend on that move?
You're kidding me.
It shows no time.
Yeah, maybe he just missed. Maybe he just missed that the knight was hanging.
Maybe.
I mean, that's a possibility. Maybe he just missed that the knight was hanging and was probably shocked. But then continued playing out of inertia. That's a very strange game. A very, very strange game. But yeah, I think his plan with d5 is just sped up the demise of his position. All right, let's see what's happening elsewhere. So we have Eddie and Nathan have a symmetrical, well, it was symmetrical English. Now it's looking like a reversed Botvinnik. And now it's almost beginning to look like well, depending on how Black sets up the remainder of their pieces. Okay, so now it's not going to be. It was looking like it was going to become a reversed Mar del Plata even, but now maybe it's going to be a reversed Benoni. Okay, that's pretty bold.
Hmm.
Rutro,
Looks good.
yeah,
Oh. Oh yeah, you have that move. Yeah.
yeah. There's all kinds of excitement going on here. So he gets the pawn back only to give it away again, or at least be in danger of giving it away.
Yeah, he's
Hmm.
not up the material, but this still seems nice for him. He has the bishop pair.
Yeah.
His king side's a little bit compromised. F4 was a little odd, but I still I still like his position just because he's better. Whoa. Oh, more tactics. You know what? I'm just trying to not
Queen
say anything.
d4. So he was banking on Queen d4, but probably missed Rook e4 first, um, showing that he has the ability to delay gratification for a move at least. And now he wins the exchange, and could be more depending on how. Yeah,
And I don't
and
know
he's
if we
in
have
trouble.
any I don't know if we have any intel on the ground over at the castle premises, but we see that Nathan's at 4 minutes in this position and Eddie's at
Oh yeah,
40. This is something to
very
take a photo of.
strange.
Very strange. So this is nothing short of a miracle if Nathan is not simuling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see if there are any other. I don't see any other Nathan game on the menu.
Something's going on at the castle, and I want to know what.
Yes, this is. I mean, anything else and the fix must be in because this is not a natural situation. So what is oh, and if he plays 96, you can play rook on 1 takes e6 and then the rook in the corner is hanging. So yeah, so Eddie seems to be in some trouble, but he might be saved by the bell if Nathan can't get his moves in quickly enough. Okay, let's see what's going on with Michael. Sorry, yeah, Michael and Thad Swigum. So a French Tarrasch with the trendy Queen d7.
I've played this exact position so many times. I like this. I like this. Quite. I shouldn't say quite a lot, but it's a very playable position for Black. Obviously. Funny enough, I actually played this as Black against Thad Swigum at the closed, and now
Oh,
he's playing it as Black. So, um, I'm guessing he's just not copying me. I'm guessing this is just his opening of choice, but I find that a bit interesting.
yes, that is kind of interesting. Um, and Queen d7 for I don't know if he still plays it, but our current state champion, Queen d7, was his choice for a while there. I'm not exactly sure what if he still plays it, but um, he did tend to prefer Queen d7 compared to Queen d6. Oh, wow. That seems to be making some progress here. Hopefully, it isn't progress towards getting his queen trapped. Uh-oh. So it seems like, oh, but if he captures, this is actually kind of painful for Black. Um, Dad may have wanted to play this, but the interesting thing about this en passant um, capture is that it leaves the queen hanging.
That was a very, very rare instance of en passant leaving a queen hanging because
Yes, I know.
it looks. I think aesthetically would be the right word. It just looks aesthetically weird. You don't expect because en passant is obviously on the first move, so usually the queen isn't that. far advanced in enemy territory this early on in the game. Or yeah,
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen that dynamic, at least not in the recent past, like recent being 5 years. I don't know that I've seen that specific dynamic of you can't capture a passant because you're leaving your queen hanging to a rook on the fourth rank. And the knight is basically forced back to b6 because otherwise the rook on a8 falls to the queen. And yeah, Mr. Swigum is in trouble. So he gives up a piece for a pawn. Yikes. And now he gets to ruin Black's pawn structure on the king side, maybe, depending on how he responds. But Thad isn't going down without a fight, so he... All right, they're still playing. So yeah, I guess the next moves would be bishop takes rook, knight takes rook, and Black has a material deficit. Okay. Yeah, this is the games. The games today are kind of interesting. It seems as if a bit more tactical looseness than usual tonight.
and I'd like to add something. I just realized I made a brain fart. I was looking at the amateur round 3 game from the close, and I realized I had a brain fart, and my game against Ed
Oh,
Swigum was not the Tarash as I thought it was. It was more a Tartakover where you take on c4, the bishop takes on c4, and you play bishop a6, trying to exchange off white's good light script. So forgive me, I had a complete brain fart there, which shows why I will never be a top player because my memory is atrocious. I can't remember what happened a month ago.
well, as long as you remember what you need to play at the moment, you can still play good chess.
Yes.
Right. So, uh, yeah, let's see what's going on here. So, Tarash with a semi-Slav. What am I saying, a Tarash? So, Catalan, sorry, a Catalan. I thought we were heading towards a Tarash. A Catalan closed Catalan, which is following normal paths until this move. Oh, more normal moves here might be bishop f4, rook d1, knight d2, knight b d2, I need to say. c4, cd5, I wonder what the idea is here. Yeah, this doesn't necessarily work. Um I recall having on the white side of this playing something similar against Dane Zagar, and we had some tactical adventures, but I I don't know. Maybe is this the exact position that we had? Yeah, I think this is the same position we had. Something like this. And then the queen comes in. And if I remember properly, the queen doesn't get to stay there very long. And bishop f4. Why is bishop f4 not working there? Oh, because after bishop f4, then bishop b7 happens and the queen is booted out. Or maybe queen c7 happens exchange queens, and then the rook takes over the file. And that's how this game went. Okay. So let's see the White's trying to get some pressure here. Clever. Hmm. So who has a better chances in this end game?
I would love to see somehow the 1% probability of a knight and bishop mate here, because it's so rare that you're left with so many minor pieces on in an endgame. All the
Mhm.
majors have been traded, but you have 3 out of the 4 minors. Well, not anymore, but you had 3 out of the 4
Yes.
minors on the board for each side. So, um, yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's just a rare something you don't see too often.
Whoa. Should Black have just taken the knight on c5? So instead of running back, maybe knight takes c5 could be working. Oh, maybe not, because you can't comfortably prevent b4 from happening and then there's pass pawn. Although you get to play e5 and maybe d4 yourself. But okay. He wanted to leave White with the ability to initiate the exchanges. Hmm. Interestingly, I kind of like Black's chances here. I don't. It'll probably be drawn, but I think he
His
just seems
bishop
to
is
have.
better,
Yeah,
and the H pawn is scarier than the D pawn. So, but
for sure.
the king easily blockades. But whenever the king leaves G3, Black will probably play F4 and pretend.
Hmm. So, all right. Well, let's see. We'll be back. Jason has a pretty strong time advantage at the moment, though. Now, in on board 7, did Srijan literally run out of time?
I find that hard to believe, but crazier things have happened. He's playing quickly here, so
How many times? How many times has that knight made it to c6? So one, two. Okay, so only 2 times. It just felt like there was perpetual motion going on there. Um. All right, that's not a friendly gesture. Well, this is okay. This is crazy.
Let's just see.
Wow.
He went from 24 to 0, so I doubt he spent 24 minutes on that move. But we do have the fact that this position is so complicated that um oh wait. No, black's just winning here.
Yeah. Maybe he let his clock. I mean, I doubt he just let his clock run down.
I
But
hope not.
yeah, I hope not. Maybe he resigned and they didn't, and only after the fact that they put the kings in the center of the board for the DGT. Um, that might be what makes sense. But yeah, let's look at the anatomy of this tactic here. So white is trying to be aggressive and attacks the white, the black knight, but leaves their own knight unprotected, and that's what caused the catastrophe that followed. Is there's no way to both defend the knight on f3 and get the rook on h1 to safety. So it's sort of a fork of sorts, a double attack, I should say. And so, yeah, after rook there, then there's another double attack, or maybe triple attack now, right? The queen's in danger, the rook's in danger, and then the bishop on g6.
And then yeah, bishop takes h7 made matters worse. You had to just
Yes.
maybe not best, but maybe just take that knight with your bishop and then say, well, you up in exchange, but I'm still fighting. Your king's weak, my king's weak. My king's probably a
Yeah.
little bit safer, so the game goes on. But bishop takes h7 really made it hard.
Yeah, bishop here. Um, but then maybe he was concerned about that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but now we can just move the bishop and only down in exchange, so it's not the end of the
Yeah.
world. Still bad, but
Still bad.
oh,
Yeah.
mate, did the game just get updated, or am I seeing things?
I think it just got updated. Yeah, it just got updated, it looks like. Okay, that explains. Yes,
Oh,
the game just got updated.
all everything we thought happened didn't happen. Bishop takes h7. It was
Yes.
never played.
Okay. Oh man. So once bishop takes g6 happened, then just checkmate. And neither of us noticed that.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, it's not no good.
Oh man. I mean, not that but I think 94 looks so flashy that this is how you lose lives um in Puzzle Rush or something like that, where you just see something obvious and miss the even more obvious mate in one.
Yeah. One thing though, if we could stay at this game for just a second longer, I was wondering on move 23 when he played Queen D2. I was briefly calculating, yeah, Bishop E8. Instead of Queen D2, what if you just took on G6 anyways? So takes G6, Bishop takes G6, and then Queen D2. And I'm not saying you're winning, but I'm saying you're probably slightly better. I definitely prefer white here. Um, if I'm black, I have to do something about the bishop, either taking on C2 or maybe playing like Queen G7 or something. But you have to. Well, Queen G7 blunders a piece. Never mind. So yeah, you pretty much have to take my bishop, and then You probably take the bishop. Oh yeah, I would take the bishop. I just prefer this to the game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess in this position, maybe. Oh, that's not working. I was looking at Rook F3, Rook D4, but that's not really getting the job done. Ah, there is a Nate Hoover 2 going on. It just appeared on the list.
Ah,
Are they just starting? Plus, that doesn't make sense, but it seems like Nate finished his game with Eddie, and then this game shows up,
no,
and
it didn't just. It's
oh,
been going on for a while. Times are
okay.
just messed up. Unless they unless we substituted like a John Bloomer for Jordan Tim and they just blitzed out 30 moves.
Yes, it's very possible. But yeah, this game is not, they didn't play, no, yeah, this is not John Boehmer versus Ahmed Ilyasov or any of the younger um, speed demons out there. All right, well, actually, let's see how Nate's game with Eddie finished before. All right, so let's see it all through here, and then that tactic. A Wits exchange. Okay, so this is where we left it. Uh, yeah, makes sense. Oh, okay. That efficient. Uh, the idea being if rook takes, then queen h3. Check, as well as, oops, wrong direction. There you go. All right. So let's see. Let's take a look at the Hoover 2 versus John Baker. Oops. Okay, C4. Okay. So, okay, that's mean. How did that happen? So here, there. Oh, so already he's attacking the pawn at f7 twice, and black ignores it. Probably look at, tried to
He
cover
must
up.
have completely blundered that. There's no other explanation.
Yeah, yeah, I think he just forgot it was there. What did I do?
I think you're trying to rewrite the game.
Oh, okay. They're really trying to confuse us. All right, so let's go to a game that might. Oh, there are weird things happening on the broadcast today. So, And now it's saying that Mr. Swigum has run out of time, which doesn't seem normal, going from 39 minutes down to 0. So I guess they must be having some broadcast issues, technical difficulties, if I may.
It
All
looks
right,
like the
let's see
tables
what's
have
going.
turned, and it looks like he'll be able to win that game.
I mean, in the Basel Swigum game.
Yeah. Oh wait, no,
Mhm.
I'm looking at. No, sorry, White. Yeah, White has a clear advantage here. My bad.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I think that was the impression we got when we left. That
yeah,
um, White will end up with a sizable material advantage,
yeah.
all things being equal. So, all right, let's go back to our featured player. And we left the movie around here. And thought that the game was very much in danger of becoming a draw. Okay, so yeah, I don't know that my assessment has changed much. It still seems rather drawish. As long as the rook on d7 stays on d7, then it's hard to see how black makes progress. Okay, let's see. All right, so we're actually down to that game as the main game because the other games seem to be, uh, if I may, in a state of limbo. Let's see. So they're putting in new moves. Which it seems like they're putting in new moves for this game. All right. Well, the games have gone pretty quickly today. I don't know
Yeah,
if,
unusually quick.
yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily complaining. It gives us time to focus in on this end game, which is not a complaint by me. So let's see. It's White's to play here. He can't leave his pawn on d6 undefended. I don't know that he wants to risk g4 here, especially if the black king can simply come up to e5. So yeah, how is he making progress here? If king d4,
Yeah, I liked
yeah.
I liked I liked King E3 because something I was looking at is if let's just say Black got an extra move. Let's say
Mhm.
let's just say then you because you do have to do that when you're playing chess. You have to what does my opponent want to do?
Yeah,
Especially at the
sure.
higher levels, that's something they players excel at is they don't look just at their own plans, they look at their opponent's plans. So Black got Rook C3 in and before we got a chance to play King E3. It's slightly scary. Well,
Yeah.
maybe then you can play King E3, but you wouldn't be able to take the rook because,
Hmm.
um, well, I mean, you could try, but I worry about takes. Your king comes over and takes that pawn, but then we trade on D6, and once your king takes on C3, my king takes on e4, if my calculations were correct. And then you have a case where black's king is just far out positioning white. So,
Yes.
but after rook c3, even after actually rook c3, king e3, rook takes, king takes, black would be able to play rook takes d6 check. So maybe
Mhm.
king e3 was probably definitely the right choice from Ethan.
Right choice. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I somehow I'm thinking that black may maybe able to find a way. Um.
I think what's
So
important,
yeah.
I think what's important is once black plays g5, which it seems he will do, I don't think we should take that. We should leave the tension.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that looks correct. There's also the possibility of preparing for f5, which then allows the king to roam a bit more. It's funny, this simplified position, the importance of the e4 pawn in keeping black from getting stuff done. So maybe the lever we're looking for is f5. Um, Happen to create a path to the kingside pawns probably, and then making sure to. Oh, um,
Things are looking better and better for Kyler because
yeah.
he's the only one who can push. He might not be winning, but um, it's a weird case where it's equal material, but the like you said, f5, yeah, f5 is probably just better than g5 because g5 white doesn't have to take, but f5 is more forcing. Um, yeah, after f5, well, black's king will probably just be better than white's, which it already was. Um,
Mhm.
though it wasn't doing as much on e6. So yeah, Kyler is making grounds here. We'll see if he can continue to
Yeah.
push it to the level of decisive.
Yeah, I think that getting, in fact, except for that, let's look at a fictitious line like this here. Um, yeah, how does white defend this? Because if you try, I guess you could capture, seems simplest.
And maybe you can come from behind with the rook actually. Can you play rook a8 instead of taking?
Oh, so here, and then take eight instead of, yeah, that seems reasonable. Although, no, I think you lose the pawn for
You
nothing.
do lose the pawn. Okay, I was hoping rook e8, but
Yeah,
the rook slides. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay. If this were to happen, um, do we capture with the king? Do we capture with the pawn? Hmm.
My gut
Um,
tells me king, but
Yeah, that's what my gut is saying too. And get your king in and avoid creating an unnecessary weakness. Uh, okay. Well, let me see. All right, so let's see if we have the corrected version of. Oh, what? This looks nothing like what we had looked at before, right? Let's see. They're very, yeah, I don't know. Oh, wow. Wait a second. Wasn't it in this position that there was this knight takes e5 tactic or something?
If I
In
remember
this
correctly,
game.
I thought this was the game where there was knight takes f7 ideas,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
where I just said,
Yes,
oh,
you're
he
correct.
must have just completely missed taking on f7, but apparently he didn't because we got deceived by the board transmission.
Yes. Hmm.
It's a lot of pawns.
Yeah. That's okay. All right. Yeah, this seems the result was the same, but just leaving f7 on pre's in the previous version of the game didn't seem to make as much sense as this game does now.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like the only live game is the Ethan versus Kyler game. So we'll focus here for a minute. And um, and so Kyler, it seems, has to make a difficult decision, a bridge burning decision to be clear. Um, how does which pawn pushes should he make? And should he make a pawn push or just shuffle around for a few more moves before he decides what he wants to do? Uh, I don't know. Better them to make the decision than me. Uh, so let's see here. Yeah, I guess this is the last game of the night. Um, and we're kind of at Kyler's mercy. This is a position where he should take his time to map out a plan and then play the follow-up moves quickly.
And just to clarify for our viewers, it has been a bad night for the DGT boards. And currently the situation is we have one game currently ongoing, and it's the only game that has not been damaged by the DGT boards, and that would be the Kyler versus Ethan Hunt game. But we still have Ed Swigum and Michael Basil, but that game, we have it in the sense of it shows to me that, like we noted earlier, that Thad ran out of time, but we consider that highly unlikely. And then we also have um, the only other game like that is Jason Wagner versus Norm Myron, where we had the same colored bishop ending. And it shows that after white played f4 check, he won. But that seems it definitely didn't happen. So we still have two games
Hmm.
that we're hoping to get the DGT boys working on, but that might not happen. But we have one game ongoing.
Yes, thanks for that. Uh, yeah, so I don't know. Okay, the king goes back, and we'll have to see what, if anything, Kyler should play. And again, I think this is a position that Kyler can play with not zero risk, but close to it. And should take advantage of that. Don't rush anything here. Well, I guess you don't want to dawdle while your time disappears, but in general, you don't want to rush important decisions involving pawns in the endgame. So, all right. I think I don't know if it would be okay for us to take a well, I need to take a 2-minute break and be right back.
Yeah.
Okay. Here. So hopefully you can hold the fort.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So we still have right here Kyler Weatherspoon versus Ethan Hunt, two national masters duking it out. And like OK and me were saying, black should be preferred here, but Ethan's definitely still fighting and he could still save this game, but definitely Kyler's the one pushing here. I'm expecting f5. Last move we have was King f3 from Kyler. Sorry, excuse me, Ethan. And now, yeah, now f5 seems appropriate, but yeah, f5 or g5, but I do prefer f5. f5, and then if takes e5, black would probably take with the king. Yeah, the king. But I'm finding it hard for black to infiltrate. Okay, he goes with g5. A little surprising. And now my instinct tells me not to do anything in the sense of we don't want to take that pawn. So maybe maybe rook d4. Just kind of a waiting move. White can't do too much here. Black's obviously, like I said, the one pushing. So white has to be defensive minded and he has to um, ward off black's threats. So if rook d4, maybe black can play rook c5 then. But I would be a little surprised if Ethan played takes g5 here. I'm guessing he'll leave the tension just because if takes g5, I'm assuming Kyler would take with the pawn, and then he would have a easier way to get another passed pawn. And I guess he doesn't technically have a passed pawn, but I kind of consider the a5 pawn of his somewhat passed, even though there's the b3 pawn. You have a 2-on-1 majority there, and white always has to somewhat keep an eye on that side of the board as well. So this is somewhat of a time scramble as well. They're both under 10 minutes now. So they can't spend too much time here.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a pretty interesting finish. Who blinks first? And also, if white doesn't give up ground, can black move forward with the pawn to g4 or capture on h4 and then play f5. It's not
I
still
guess the
isn't clear.
critical line is g4. We would probably have to play king f4 because if king e3, f5 comes in, and I don't even want. Yeah, no, we just lose a pawn there. So
Mhm.
g4, king f4, and I'm not seeing it a winning line for black. I mean, you can play f5, takes f5, rook takes f5, and king e4. Or
Mhm.
king e3 might. Well, no, king e3. We can never exchange off the rooks because then d6 is hanging. So I guess king e4. And then black gets their rook behind. So after all of that, if that line plays out, the only advantage black will have gotten was maybe their rook got slightly improved. But I feel like their rook could have come from behind earlier in the game anyways. So
Mhm.
it's all still up in the air.
Okay. That seems like a fair assessment. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm happy I don't have to crack my brain trying to figure this out. Um, Now I think did Connor win his first round game?
You know, I am not sure. Let me check here quick.
Oh, okay.
He, yes, he beat Jason. Jason Wagner.
Oh yes, yes, that's true.
So currently, I don't know how many players we have on two, but I know Nate's on 2 points. He beat, I believe it was Torfy last week, and then he beat
Mhm.
um, John Baker tonight and Eddie. So
Eddie.
Nate is
Well,
doing
another
well
try.
at the he's doing well at the Simul exhibition, if you want to call it that. So
Hmm.
he's looking good in the standings.
And yeah.
And it is nice. We do have this game on our camera, so our viewers can see that. It's a bit distant, but you cannot see the board
Oh,
obviously,
okay.
but you can see the players, and if we see any hands flying or head shaking, we can maybe get a glimpse of what's going on inside their mind or of the potential valuation. But
Yes.
they seem pretty calm as I would expect.
So, let's see. Um, hmm. It's had a few minutes of radio silence there. I just can't find as hard as it is for Black to find a winning plan. I also don't seem to know what the best, if any, waiting moves might be for White. But does he go? Somehow I thought that was coming. Um, it's a pretty interesting transformation of the position, but maybe it doesn't work actually. Oh, it's a check. So the king may not have that much choice. So if we let's look at a couple positions. So if rook takes and pawn takes, I guess White's plan is something like this, and then hope to take a pawn here, and then hope to draw. Well, I should say hope to draw, but it'll probably be a draw. So that's one idea. Another might be king f4 here. Sorry, king e5 here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think king e5 and black is still the one pressing. He might not be
Mhm.
winning, but he's still the one pressing.
Yeah. And in fact, oh, this is kind of cute. I don't know if it works, but so if white takes here, then rather than take the pawn on d6, you bring the king in to try and nab that b3 pawn.
Yes, that does look good. Mm-hmm.
And it isn't clear how white defends that.
Yeah, this is really dangerous for Ethan. That's a good line. Um, so maybe, I mean, Rook D5. I don't want to rush to say it's bad, but the line we just looked at, that line you found of bringing the king in to attack B3, it's definitely advantageous for Kyler. That I'm sure if he got that position, he would just be winning, at least to my
Mhm.
eyes. So maybe Rook D5 was a bit rushed from the sense that Ethan had low time and he decided to play
Mhm.
that move. Um, I feel like he could have found a safer move. I mean, it's just a very risky move to play with such low time. You're kind of hoping it works. I feel
Yeah, I
like
was wondering about Rook D4 and look because I think just before he moved, I was saying, is it possible for White to? Or I was thinking anyway, is it possible for White to find good waiting moves, even if Black can't make progress? What are safe moves that White can play to just maintain a position? And I said, okay, maybe Rook D4. Rook D5 does not um, translate as a safe move. It's a bridge burning move. That's what that is. Um, and brings up the question: well, why did he feel the need? And maybe he, maybe Ethan didn't consider King E5 here because I think King E5 is substantially better than capturing the pawn and allowing liquidation on the king side. So, well, I guess we'll see what Kyler plays here. Is that 45 seconds left?
it is.
Oh, holy moly. Oh no. All right, so now this looks like it might. Oh, but he still has the idea of king d4 and king c3 in this position. So after rook
Mm-hmm.
takes a5, then you play. Oh, this might maybe this is. I don't know if I go as far as he'll get better, but um, maybe this is faster. Say once pawn takes pawn, and then rook a5. But then if the king comes into d4, so here, here. Oh, I think. Oh, we already played king g5, hg5 in a real game. So say Ethan plays here, there. Oh, that's what happened. Or did it? To live game. Yeah, that's what happened. King d4. So yeah, I think Ethan might have created some problems for himself here.
I do like the line you mentioned earlier better still, because in this line, White's I don't have compensation because I think he's gonna be able to pick up both the G and the H pawns.
Yes.
So most likely, so we see him take there. Kyler will
Hmm.
probably go King C3 like you were mentioning. But now what I'm looking at is say King C3, Rook takes A5, King takes B3, a situation where Kyler's B pawn is obviously better than our G pawn, but what if we sack the Rook for the pawn at the opportune time, and then his king's
Hmm.
too far away, and he'll have to sack his Rook for our pawn. So I'm thinking this may still be a draw, perhaps, but if he would have gone for the other line, maybe he could
Yeah,
have. I don't want to seem presumptuous,
using
but yeah.
no, oh, okay. Granted, I'm a bit biased towards the line I promoted, but yeah, I think using the d5 pawn to protect your kingside pawns. So black is using white's pawn to protect his pawns by not opening up the rank, right? Um, and I think that's where this might be a superior way of playing it compared to capturing on d5. But okay, it is what it is, and yeah, I actually wonder if there's any advantage to pushing. Let's see. Oops.
I kind of like rook f6 in the live position, just because.
That's what I was looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. You can go ahead.
No. Explain your thoughts. We're probably on the same line, but yeah, I
Yeah,
want to get
because if you
your
step on the
thoughts.
g file, you block your own pawn, and if you come to e2, um, you're you're stepping away from your pawn. And my reasoning earlier was that we need to sack our rook for his pawn, potentially, and then we
Yes.
need to make our pawn look like a threat. But if our king's on e2, our pawn's not going to be supported and it won't be much of a threat. So, yeah, maybe rook f6 first, but we'll see.
Yeah. I was looking at the same thing, that rook f6 seems to be a nice finesse, getting him to move in front of the pawn, and then here, and even if you were to play here, um, let's see, maybe rook here,
Hmm.
or even rook here, with the idea that the rook is already protecting the queening square from the other rook, making it a little bit harder to sack the rook for the pawn. Or maybe not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't really matter too much what square it goes to. I think rook f3 might have the advantage of forcing him to do something, make some sort of concession. So if he plays the pawn to g4, now his king, yeah, his king is still in a bad spot, and then he can play. So if he plays pawn to g4, just capture here, and he's at least an extra tempo behind in the race.
Yeah, rook
But
f6 still wins a tempo. I think we both had to convince ourselves because at first we're
yes,
like, "Oh, he wins the tempo." We're on the same wavelength right here, but um,
yes.
I still think it should be a draw. I would be surprised if either player could win this, just because. Yeah, I mean your G pawn's going to be quick enough too. You'll be able to sack your rook for that pawn, and your king's way too far away to stop the G pawn.
Well, it kind of depends. So we'll see what I mean, even in this position, I think that rook f6 can. Oh, well, it's white's move. What am I saying? White has to play first. It seems like I've got itchy fingers trying to move the board around. Okay. All the other games are resulted correctly, I hope. Yeah, this is a tough position with a minute and a half on the clock. It's a tough position with 20 minutes on the clock. Uh, the moment of finesse. So, okay. I was hoping he wouldn't fall asleep and lose on time. Um,
So he opts for. Yeah, so rook b5 to me is kind of an indicator instead of just immediately pushing your g pawn. To me, it's an indicator of him just having the idea of sacking his rook for the pawn.
yeah, he just wants to have his rook at the ready for the sack.
Well, I think this could be the only peaceful result of the broadcast.
Yeah, kind of funny that is. So there's an interesting thing here. I don't know how safe it's going to be. Um, oh man, is this working right now? So the idea is rook d5, rook d5 now, king somewhere, maybe king goes up, and then rook here.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But what if let's say king f6 instead of king g6,
oh yeah, so it's not to block the pawn, right? So king f6.
and then after rook b5, what if we play check, rook c8 check, king, yeah, probably king d3, and then now g4, b3, rook c1, rook c1,
Oh, rook c1. Okay.
and then b2, rook anywhere on the first, and then we'll sack the pawn and push our pawn. So I think we can still, we're
Right.
still in time to sack the pawn, but that did look a bit scary there for a sec.
So hold on. Maybe we shouldn't do this. So after this, we go here. Maybe he has to play rook c1 immediately, but then he might end up losing his g pawn. Because if he goes here, maybe we play king d2.
Can we come at it? Can we play rook a8 now? Or maybe just rook h8?
Hmm. Yeah, this may end up being drawn after all. Okay, let's see if there's another mechanism, another way of doing this. So here, 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 here. Oh, I guess a couple more moves have come through. Oh, this actually happened in the game.
Oh
So,
wow.
so here, 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 there, there. And he went immediately to the eighth file.
We should forecast the weather.
Not up here in Duluth, man. Well, the professionals get it wrong so often. Yeah, but let's see. This is pretty dangerous. Um, can
And I
it's
just
okay
got
they're having yeah.
I just got word from Eddie that in this game between Ethan and Kyler, a draw was offered roughly 30 moves ago. I don't know by which player, but just a little bit of an interesting tidbit. Which,
Okay.
considering the position 30 moves ago, doesn't
hmm
surprise me.
Mm-mm. Now the mystery is if we can correctly guess who offered the draw. So yeah, I don't know. It's I do think that the most likely result would be a draw, but with these guys playing on increments, I suppose anything could happen.
And I think you do need to be careful here, but I think King F5 or King F7 is playable. I think. Initially, I was slightly leaning towards King F7, but I think King
hmm
F5 is also playable.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Um,
So our pawns on G5 are the white pawns on G5, and they just took our rook on B1. And then, oh, okay, never mind. He played King F5 instead of. Well, I guess this was the line we were looking at.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah, this should be a draw.
Yeah,
Be
thankfully.
I'm becoming more and more convinced by the second.
All right, yeah. Um, barring some. Wait a second, though. If the king, Kyler did something clever. If the king is the one on C4, so I suppose in this position, Ethan probably should block that pawn with his rook to force the king further. Yeah. Otherwise, it would have allowed Black's king to stay too close to the king side for White's comfort. Now there's a better chance that Black will have to bring his queen so far away that it can't help with what's going on the king side.
Yes, I do think it is the more clinical move. Both moves might be
Mhm.
Rook B1 and G5. Both might be drawing. I think pretty positive they both are, but Rook B1 is definitely the most procedural move. If you know.
Actually, let's take a look at that though. Is G5 enough? So if this happens, and 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 say here goes here. Just draw.
Yeah,
Since
I can confirm with the engine. It says G5, Rook B1, or even King E5. Yeah, they're all drawing.
okay, all right. All right, so this is going to end in a draw. Uh, most likely. I guess people can still blunder.
I believe in that. Not in this game, but
In
obviously it's
general.
possible. It obviously it's possible, but people wondering that that happens all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, and the Black King isn't getting back home on time.
Well, I think that was
All
a
right.
very procedural grandmaster game from start to finish, pretty much. Except maybe before we end the stream, we should briefly check out if your move King E5 instead of King takes D4 would have been winning for
Oh
Kyler.
yeah. Yeah, so let's take a look at that a little bit in more depth. So here and here. And so we're thinking here, right?
Yes.
Okay. And yeah, where would we put the rook? I don't know. If I were playing the white pieces, is there a way to hold this together? Maybe white would like to see g4 happening so it could get his king to f4. So then it means that black should keep the tension on the king side. Um, Rook a6 is useless
It's hard to
as
play
is
for
rook
white.
b5. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it's. I mean, it may objectively be drawn, but I think this is a lot more difficult for whites to sort out. Yeah, because it's the pawns on the king side disappearing was what. Well, A allows white to get a pass pawn, but gives allows White's rook to get onto the long side of the position to help with to be prepared to sack. So maybe actually this is interesting. Maybe he goes here. No, that has to no, that's just I'm sorry. My brain isn't functioning properly because this should be simple enough. And then the
I,
pawn goes, and then after that it's all over.
I like your idea of G4. I like your idea of G4 though, because after let's see, King takes D5. Where are we here? Yeah, after if instead of King takes D5, King E5, Rook takes A5, and then King D4, um, White playing G4, I think really
Oh yeah.
neutralizes black's threats because we we can't really save our B3 pawn, so we need to neutralize all the pawns on the king side, so we can probably sack the rook for the G pawn, just like we did in this game. Um,
Well, actually, I think this might fail, but just by a hair. So pawn takes, king takes, pawn takes, and now at least we know that at the moment anyway, white doesn't have a dangerous passed pawn. So um, maybe we rush in with this. And our idea is, oh, actually, maybe we should take the pawn first to safeguard to safeguard um, our f6 pawn. Yeah, maybe take the d6 pawn first, because as a result of the exchanges on the king side, white's king is pretty far away from the action now.
yeah, wait, you're
So
right.
kind and it might even take the d5 pawn. But the more important thing is that it'll take the black king time, and it's not clear he can do it to get to say e7 or something. Um, and meanwhile, yeah,
No, I definitely misstepped with G4. I thought G4 looked good, but that endgame is losing for white. So it just goes to show um how trying King E King E5 King D4 would have been for Ethan. And
yes.
I checked with the analysts with our good
Mhm.
3700 ELO computer friend, and they said that it is still a draw after
Mhm.
King E5 and this whole King
Mhm.
D4 shenanigans, but um I definitely think it was the better practical try. Um I mean, I just blundered into a losing endgame, and it is more aesthetically pleasing for Black's chances.
Yes. Yeah, actually, it's funny. My first, so I played a Minneapolis Open last weekend. In my first round game, um, in the final position, it seemed concerning for black, for white. Sorry, I was playing the white pieces, and it seemed concerning for my position because he had two connected pawns on the queen side, and it wasn't clear if I could mobilize my pawns on time to make a difference. Um, Later, I checked. Well, we agreed a draw was unclear. Later, I checked, and the engine thought it was 0.00. And I think it would have added more zeros if I didn't keep the significant factor to just two decimal points. So it's what the computer considers equal is um, often not useful for us as human chess players because it assumes abilities we lack, right? Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, I think it would just be more difficult for White to defend. So anyway, this is an interesting round. The fact that there was only one drawn game uh, says something. I'm not sure what, but it says something. Uh, and all right, I
And
guess
granted,
this is
we did have two games we never knew the result of. Those were um,
yes.
Jason and Norm Mywin, but both games were pretty. I shouldn't say obvious, but especially I would say the Thad Swigum versus Michael Basil, that looked like White was just way up in material. So we can assume Michael won that game. And in
Mhm.
fact, now it's saying Thad's time is restored. So I'm guessing Thad just resigned on move 24. So, okay, so that game got fixed. And then,
Okay.
so it's so Michael takes that one home. Nice win for him. And it looks like the Jason Wagner versus Norm Myring game, that was probably a draw, considering
So it says it's claiming 0-1 on my screen. Let me refresh.
it is for me too, but I'm struggling to believe he would have resigned in this position.
Yeah, I don't see it. Oh, no, but even then, so Black can capture en passant, although that has a problem because if the bishop gets into the position and can take h6, and so maybe he just thought he was in a lost position. Because if he doesn't capture en passant, so if we look at here and here, um,
This is
wait
starting
a
to get
second.
dangerous.
Yeah, very. Because h5, h4 is coming. Let's see.
Well, I think White's just definitely the one better here. They're gonna play Bishop
Mhm.
B7, then they're gonna take that, nothing you can do about it, and then they're gonna play A4, nothing you can do
Yeah.
about that. So
And meanwhile, the king can take care of the h pawn. Um, and black also has to be concerned that now white has this passed d pawn that might start moving. So, okay. All right. So that's with taking. The only other legal option, well, there are two, I suppose, is king g6 or king f6. And it looks like he holds, black does. So, yeah, I'm not sure what prompted the resignation here. Um, yeah, do you see a reason for resignation here? Hmm. Oh, okay. And this is making the okay. Yes. All right. So, well, I guess we are done for this week's edition of Thursday Night Fights, and hopefully we'll see you all next week.
and we have, I believe, one quick
Oh,
um just a sponsor. This
oh
is
yes.
sponsored by Chess Goals. They're simple chess courses for non-grandmasters. You can learn complete repertoires in under 100 lines. This is headed up by local NM Matt Jensen. He creates these courses, and you can use the coupon code CASTLE to save 30% on any purchases at chessgoals.com. So make sure to check that out. Matt's doing a lot of good work over there. So We thank him for sponsoring the stream. Thank you all for watching, and we'll